All right, green room. How about it?
How about it? It's so crazy. Free agency is already here.
I was gonna lead the pod with it. So what the hell's happening? Time is just slipping away.
Yeah, I mean, I
It'll be
heard
50 before I know it.
16 days until opening day.
I
That's
know,
crazy.
I know. Trying to get my go to bed early in while I can because pretty soon I'm not gonna be able to
good
anymore.
point. Well, you could just not watch the Phillies.
Yeah, that would
Um,
go real well for me.
I'm so in on a Big Bone season, by the way.
Oh yeah, you're all bummed up.
I am so in on him. I just think the dude is winning right now. Like he's killing it in spring training. We all know I believe in spring training camp.
Yeah, which is dumb, but yeah.
Well, my
Training
training
camp,
camp
maybe.
stats ended up
Spring
being.
training is yet to be proven to be.
I don't follow it as closely, so I don't know. I'd be curious to see the difference between.
Trust me on this one. There has literally never been any, like, people have done stuff, like, there is zero.
Interesting.
Like, you can look at, like, guys who have a new swing or guys who have a new pitch or stuff like that.
Right.
Like, there's specific things that you can focus in on. But in terms of, like, oh, that guy crushed it in spring training, like, there's no notable data to suggest.
I feel like I need to get down to spring training and
see it with your own eyes.
Well, yeah, just like, I know obviously they keep all the stats.
Mhm.
That's the tough thing.
Mhm.
But like maybe just like, I don't know, the warm-ups. See how they hit the baseball there, track it, for whatever. Has Trey Turner gotten a hit yet?
I don't know.
All right, I saw he was like,
again, you're asking the person who doesn't care about spring training. Like, I don't.
I'm shocked. I would if
I've always been.
I know.
Same.
I'm just saying. Well, you don't really care about training camp either. So.
Just so you know, I care more about training camp than I do about.
It's crazy.
I think you can take more away from NFL training camp than you can from spring training. You know how I feel about training camp.
Yeah, so, I know.
I think spring training is, again, other than like position battles, like who's going to win the spot. I think it is useless in terms of predicting the season.
Well, useless. I will say with the longer season,
someone who's played fantasy baseball for 24 years now.
Wow, what a flex!
2001 was my first fantasy baseball season. I look at this stuff. I look at spring training stats. I'm telling you.
Yeah. No, I might have to track it for 20 years and then tell you how I feel.
Yeah, I like that. Please get started.
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Here we go.
We're doing it.
All right.
I gotta start the pod. That's
yeah.
That's on me. That's on me. Okay, here we go. Hey, hello. It is the Go Birds podcast presented by the Bet Parks Casino and Sportsbook app. Eliot Shorr-Parks, James Seltzer with you. I like that Eliot just mouthed that with me.
I mean, it's just
that was strong.
I know.
Getting in, doing the open with me.
I mean, I can just like, it's the whole thing.
I felt close to you right there.
It's almost like one word in my head. Like, you know, my last name is Shorr-Parks, but I hear it as one word. Like your opening statement, it's almost just like one continuous
I like
word.
that. I appreciate that. So for those who weren't in the green room, that means you weren't watching on YouTube. I'm going to start where I was going to start anyway, even though you already said it. Yeah. I can't believe free agency's here.
It's crazy.
I can't believe we're sitting here talking about free. It feels like I know it was over a month ago. The Super Bowl was yesterday. Friday is a month from the parade.
Yeah.
The greatest day of my life was a month ago.
Well, the combine already happened. Like free agency. Well, you could say free agency is not here for the Eagles.
Oh.
As of recording, they have, boom. Yeah. They have not done anything. Now, Tucker.
Not fair. They did stuff before. We haven't talked about Zach Bond. That happened between the two of us.
Well, and I will say, I do really like the Kenny Pickett trade, so we'll talk about that too. But Tucker's in the free agency desk for the next hour.
He's like you will be tomorrow.
Like I will be for 12 hours tomorrow.
Yeah. If you're a Go Birds real
Royersford McGurk's.
6
a.m. to 6 p.m.
I will give you a hug if you say you're a real one. If you want one,
I'll be.
You don't have to have one,
right?
But if you want a hug, if you tell me you're a real one, you're getting a hug if you want it.
I'll be at the free agency desk, the little elevated desk,
all day.
So yeah, it'll be a fun day.
11 to 12, the Go Birds hour.
Yes, good point.
Means I get to stay for an extra 2 hours after.
Well, we haven't had Go Birds radio.
That'd be really fun. So. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Good point. Yeah.
No, I'm excited. I mean, in all seriousness, it is one of my favorite days of the year. Like just being there, being at the event, the free agency of it all, and something will happen. We're gonna get into all the stuff that has not happened, the players they've lost, but I don't know. But do you want to just start big picture here, or do you have a thought?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So
dive in, big dog.
So I will. Here's like all my thoughts.
I was going to talk about non-football for like 10 minutes.
No, that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all I'm thinking about is football right now.
I know.
So,
you're all locked in.
Yeah.
Look at you.
I mean, I love it. So here's what I would say. That, I love the roller coaster. Like, I love the, like, let's all get upset. Let's all be super happy. Like, I'm not really an in the middle guy. Right. And I do think that it's important that, like, just because they won the Super Bowl, we're not just like, all's good, don't worry, who cares? Like, but I do think the correct opinion 48 hours or 24 hours into free agency is like, they're fine.
I
just
the same way.
Look, like, all right, so I was just on a radio call in Arizona to ask about, they want to know about Josh.
Oh.
And I'm just like, he's a nice player.
Yeah.
You know, like he's a nice
you guys
player.
gave him a lot of money.
You guys overpaid like you always do, like teams always do in free agency, but like he's a nice player. And so I think are they better with Josh Sweat? Like probably, right? Because now they got nothing for him. It's not like they traded him. Were they better with Milton Williams? Like, yes. But ultimately, and I'm not trying to do the whole like just because they won, you got to trust Howie. But it's so far away till when they play a game that.
And Howie said patience. Yeah. Like he literally said, it ain't going to look like it normally does in free agency. Like he told you exactly what was going to happen. He said, hey, don't forget, what was the phrase he used? He's like, the season doesn't start.
Well, he always
but
does.
He's right about that. Yeah. Like the team's going to look a lot different, or not a lot different, but different than it does now by the time the season starts as this free agency thing goes on.
They don't really have a ton of holes in general. So it's not like, look, if they would have traded AJ Brown or if Zach Bond would have re-signed elsewhere, or, then I think you could sit there and go, totally, like, okay, like this is not good. Like they have a major hole they need to fill. And maybe I'm just all
we were expecting to lose these guys.
Right. I mean,
I actually felt better about it when I saw how much money those guys got. Because I was like, well, we were never giving Milton Williams $63 million guaranteed.
And look, Milton Williams.
We were never giving Josh Sweat $76 million. Like, that was never.
It was never going to happen. They were always gone.
Better about it. That's my point. Because it was like, you know what? Like I thought they were gone, but like there was 0% chance they were coming back with those numbers. So it's like, what were you expecting?
I'm actually like the most concerning thing for me is the Isaiah Rodgers loss.
Kind of. Honestly, you know what I was going to say? The Oren Burks loss. I was like, why not give that guy $5 million to be a starter until Dean?
I mostly agree with you there. I will say that the Oren Burks loss probably indicates they feel good about where Nakobe's at, and also Trotter Jr. Like they feel good about those guys.
That's a good point about the Nakobe injury. They feel good.
Yeah, like so I think that's a good because that's not a ton of money.
I'm shocked by it.
The thing about the Isaiah Rodgers loss, and I feel like I've been the only one beating the drum over the last month. Everyone's like the big four. Even Joe, like whenever I'm on the air with Joe, I'm like Isaiah Rodgers matters, and 2 questions later he's like, so the big four, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the reason I think the Isaiah Rodgers loss is the biggest loss is because I think they were expecting to retain him. So they went into the offseason thinking they would be bringing Isaiah Rodgers back. And I think his market ended up being way more than they thought. They tried to keep him.
Which isn't that much even.
It's not that much still.
And look, $8 million guaranteed.
You can certainly say like credit to them for sticking to their number. That's not something I'm good at. I would have just paid it. But
I will say to that point, though, that if they desperately wanted him back, they probably could have gotten him.
Agreed. I just mean to what you just said. I think they were planning on losing Josh Sweat and Milton Williams.
Sure.
They are themselves, as of now, getting rid of Darius Slay. So that's a decision they're making. I think Isaiah Rodgers is the only one where it's like they were expecting one thing and now it's different. So they have to audible a little in terms of going after somebody else, maybe focusing on it in the draft a little more. So that would be the only thing. But yeah, I mean, like Milton Williams is a great player. I'm in on Milton Williams. I think Moro Ojomo can pretty much do a Milton Williams.
Totally. I mean, again, and I made this point on the air today, but even with the guys they lost, they have the best roster in the NFL today, right now. With the guys they've lost, they have the best roster in the NFL. Well, I like Milton Williams. I think we've been beating the Milton Williams drum for a while, I feel like, on this pod, saying he's a better player than I think people realize. But even so, what's he, the 10th, 12th, 13th best player on this team?
I think he's 15th? Not even that.
15th? Yeah. I said pushback. I said 15 originally, and I got pushback on it.
No, I don't even know if he's top 20.
But that's my point.
Yeah.
He probably is, but like Josh Sweat, what's he, like the 18th best player on this team?
Well, just for fun, do you want to do it? Just because I'm thinking about it now. So Jalen, AJ, Devontae, Saquon, Lane, Mylata, Landon, Cam.
That's 8 already. Definitely better. Goddard is probably better, but you could argue.
I think Goddard probably
we
won't put that one.
We won't put him on. So Zach Bond,
Chauncey,
Jalen Carter,
the
2 corners, Kenyan and Cooper.
That's 13.
That's 13 already.
That's 13, right? I mean, we're getting close. So maybe
we're getting close. That's why I said 14, 15, 16 is right in that range.
Nolan Smith.
Same. Maybe I put Nolan Smith above him. I don't know. Maybe Nolan Smith becomes better, but they're similar, right? So we've reached a range. The point is, it's at best. Milton Williams is the 14th best player on this team.
Keep in mind, we didn't even bring up Josh Sweat yet.
Yes.
So like Josh Sweat,
he's probably behind Milton Williams.
I think he was a better player last year than Milton Williams, but I think Milton Williams is a better free agent, like guy you would rather.
And that's my point.
They would protect him before.
And think about how much money those guys got. Like we're freaking out. Like Milton Williams is now what, like the 5th best player on the Patriots, or the 4th best? They're paying him like the best player on the. That's my point.
And I think it's a good signing for them. Like I think both things can be true.
Sure.
Like they had to overpay to get him, but that's what you do in free agency. It's a good pickup for them. But the Eagles the difference between Milton Williams and Moro Ojomo is not $76 million.
Exactly.
Like it just isn't. Now, Josh Sweat and Jalix Hunt, I think there's a little bit more of a who knows there because Jalix hasn't played as much.
But you love Jalix.
What are you talking about? No, I'm in on him for sure. I'm in on Jalix Hunt.
Look, if you put it this way, like, would I rather have Jalix Hunt for his contract or Josh Sweat for his?
Yeah, it's not even close.
Question.
It's not even close. Yeah. Now, the other way to look at it is, can Nolan, their best edge rusher last year was Josh Sweat. Would you agree with that? I mean, you could argue Graham before the injury, but
I think Nolan Smith for a portion was better. Like, I think whatever it was when Nolan Smith started going, game 8, game 9, whatever it was, through the playoffs.
I agree. He was probably their best one.
I think Nolan Smith was better than Josh Sweat. Josh Sweat just had a better Super Bowl.
But the way I view it is, I think Nolan Smith can give you what Josh Sweat gave you last year.
100%.
And I think Jalix Hunt can give you what Nolan Smith gave.
Yeah.
Because also Nolan didn't really contribute the first 7 or 8 games. So Jalix Hunt, I mean, we look at the roster now as like unbelievable, best roster we've ever seen. And it's true in a lot of ways. But for the first 7 or 8 games, we were like, the defensive line's an issue. You got to go do something. So it took time for their defensive line to coalesce. And to be an impactful line. So is Moro Jamo, Jalix Hunt week 1 going to be as good as the guys they're replacing? Like, probably not. But I think by week 7, they definitely will be. Like, Jalix Hunt, we all saw how quickly he improved last year. Now I think with the confidence, I think Nolan Smith, so I think Nolan can give you what Josh Sweat did. I think Jalix can give you what Nolan Smith did. And then from there, you're talking about backups at that point. And that's the other thing too. When we're talking about the holes on the team, we're talking about the 3rd defensive tackle, the 2nd edge rusher in Josh Sweat. I don't consider it a hole, but that's who they lost. And like Darius Slay, they moved on willingly. Isaiah Rodgers, I think, is a loss, but Isaiah Rodgers was their top backup / they didn't even value him at $8 million. And Oren Burks, I get why people, whatever. I think that's just on top of everything. I think if they would have re-signed Rodgers.
Josh Sweat is the only real starter that they lost. I mean, Milton Williams is kind of Jordan Davis, but they're kind of play together. Yeah. Like, he's the only whatever 80% of the snaps type guy they lost. I mean, it's crazy to think about that.
And also, who knows, by the time people are listening to this, maybe
Becton
they will.
could be gone. Which would add to that.
All right, you want to talk about?
Let's talk about Becton.
Because I was going to say they're going to add. They're going to sign somebody. They're going to make a trade. Something will happen. So, and who knows? Maybe it'll happen in the next hour or whatever. But they are going.
Maybe it'll happen, and Tucker won't tell us, and then we don't even know.
I don't know. Tucker's pretty.
A lot of moves over here.
It's a lot happening in the NFL.
No, nothing's happening.
Okay, I can't tell.
You can tell sarcasm.
Well,
now to be fair, Tucker always sounds like he's sarcastic, so sometimes it's hard to tell. But that time,
can I drop a quick free agency take on you?
Please. What else is the point of this podcast?
Is now really the time for that?
yeah. Is that topical? But it's not Eagles.
That's fine.
I would mostly be okay if you could just recruit players year round. It's silly at this point. Everything happened on Sunday. So let's say the Eagles had interest in somebody.
Well, year round's a problem because you're playing in the season. I think you could say, to rephrase this, from the moment the season ends until the next begins.
Or maybe
the season recruiting.
I would be okay with that, but I understand the world's not ready.
Let me just leave these guys. You can't.
No, you can't leave. But I'm saying
you don't want players thinking about that in the season. You don't want.
I think they do though. I agree, you could mess around. The Eagles could call a key player on Washington. I get that. I don't think
that should be allowed, but I get your point. I think
it does happen in the real world.
The idea, but this isn't the real world.
No, I know it's not. Yeah.
The idea that at 12 o'clock on Monday they're supposed to start talking and all these contracts.
Well, it's just so funny too.
Nonsense. It's
how
nonsense.
It was initially whatever, just stay with Wednesday, and they're like, all right, well, we'll do 2 days.
We'll do it so people.
And now it's well, actually, so just do it.
Yeah,
I agree. Look, I think the first initial rule, since the world is not ready, is just from the time a team season ends, you're allowed to talk to those players.
I got no problem.
Because to your point, Sunday night, it was free agency started. 800 million things happened. Now, a lot of players did re-sign with their own teams, which I just don't think it's a strong free agency class in general. And that probably speaks to the fact that Milton Williams got $100 million. But yeah, I'd be okay with a free agency that's
it's pretty crazy.
There's no rules at this point. What's the point?
Got them
there is no
on
rules.
The open market because Miles Garrett obviously was re-signed. Milton Williams has the highest
one, I think.
Think about that.
Yeah.
And the Eagles' 14th or 15th best player is the best first.
Look, he cashed in at the perfect absolute time.
I know, right?
Literally, you want to talk about the opposite of a Son Reddick.
That's especially with Josh Sweat. Milton Williams, we like stuff like that. But with Josh Sweat, it's if he had, let's say it was just Nolan Smith and his Super Bowl reversed.
Right.
Let's say Nolan Smith had the 2.5 sacks in the Super Bowl and Josh Sweat had none and did what Nolan
Smith.
I
don't think he gets as much. I still think he gets paid.
And no one cares. No Eagles fan is oh no, we lost Josh Sweat. They're all right, thanks for the Super Bowl. See you, Josh.
Also,
nobody cares.
I'm not just saying this because he's gone. I'm not trying to be a hater. I think his Super Bowl performance, while very good, the idea that people thought he could be Super Bowl MVP is wild to me.
Silly.
Like he was awesome, but he was no better than
Milt
other
Williams,
people on the
for
defense
example.
for real. Like
Yeah,
they were
I think
all
Milt Williams is
awesome.
better. Milt Williams had a forced fumble and a
Yeah,
recovery.
Cooper had a pick 6.
And also, I do think that Josh Sweat's half sack should have just been a full sack to Jalix Hunt. Like, if you
I agree with that
If
too.
you watch that play, like that is Jalix Hunt's sack.
I agree.
Josh Sweat comes in at the very end and just cleans up a bit, but like, was not needed, was not a part of it. So basically the same game as Milt Williams had a better game.
And he got paid more money.
I'm with
And he
you.
should. Yeah.
He should.
I think Josh Sweat's, look, it's like the most clean breakup of like, hey,
All time. I've never
good career,
especially if
good
going
draft
to
pick.
Into is just like,
Yeah.
go be with him.
Now,
Have fun.
I will say too, last thing about them too, is they are success stories for the Eagles. Like we're
Of
talking about a
course,
4th and a 3rd round
no
pick
doubt.
that just got like 170
No
million.
doubt.
I mean, they are operating, like the Eagles are operating at extremely high level right now. And obviously.
Well,
But-
think about, I was just looking at it, and it sucks for Saquon because of the position he plays, but Josh Sweat the same draft as Saquon.
yeah.
And
Oh, wow.
Josh
That
Sweat
is
just
good.
got way more money than Saquon.
Yeah.
Saquon was the 2nd pick in that draft. Josh Sweat was a 4th round pick in that draft, and Josh Sweat just got more money, guaranteed and total, than Saquon.
By the way, I know we have the little bit of like Jalix Hunt could get a bigger contract than Kenyan thing. Plus and minus for that. Plus, in my book, is what you just said. Like Saquon, obviously the way better player. Josh Sweat gets a bigger deal because the position he plays. And Jalix Hunt will get paid if he continues to develop. But man, J.C. Horn yesterday getting $100 million.
Yeah,
Cooper and Kenyan in the same offseason.
gonna get paid. Well, it doesn't have
Not
to be
gonna
the
be
same
cheap.
offseason. It doesn't have to.
It
be,
will likely will be.
but it doesn't have to be because one's a 2nd rounder, one's a 1st rounder.
Agreed, but they'll both be contract eligible.
They'll
at
be
the
up
same
for it
time.
at the same time.
And considering how the new emotional Eagles operate, I don't think there's any way they extend one of. I mean, it's 2 years away. Like one could get hurt. You have no idea.
Who knows?
But I think they will extend them. Honestly, it would not shock me if they extended on
Just
the same
in, like,
day,
the same
contract. Like it really wouldn't. Like with how they do
Quinion's
things
better,
now.
though, right? I mean,
I think Quinion's better, but I think Cooper is awesome too.
He is. I
Like,
agree, but Quinion's better. So Quinion should get more.
I don't know if that's completely true, but
I
it's not like a
think it is.
slate of
We haven't seen
Quinion.
Cooper on the outside, so we'll see. But
Yeah, I don't think we will see him much on the outside. I think he'll be
just
out.
because there aren't that
Yeah,
many
I think he'll.
times at the
And he's so
bases.
good at the nickel. He's
Yeah.
such like a disruptive force in there.
I agree.
So I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's fascinating. All right, let's get to Becton. Where you at on the Becton thing? What I felt like the guard market was going kind of quiet, and then Will Fries or Freeze or whatever's got $88
and
million.
Ian
So
Brooks or whatever his
yeah,
name is got a
so-
bunch of money.
where you at with the Becton thing?
So I think I'm almost positive it was you I heard say it this morning on the morning show. I think if there was a big deal coming his way,
This was what I said.
he
yes.
probably would have gotten it.
I think he would have gotten it. in
Like
Yep.
I think we've reached the 2nd tier of free agents.
So I'm with you.
So because really we're like 4 days into it,
Mhm.
but he again all the same things apply. He's 25. He's ultra athletic. Like he just had a good year. I think we overrate his year a little bit. Like he was ranked the 76th best guard in football by Pro Football Focus. Not the end all
I
be
think
all.
it's just because he was part of that line. that
Yeah,
people
like again,
overrate
like
it,
he is a good player. I'm not like success story and like the clip of him crying on the field is like all time. Like I am Team Becton, but he is not Lane, Mailata, Cam, or Landon. Like he's just not as good. Now he could be. Like he plays a position a 2nd year. He's with Stoutland, but last year he was not that good. Like I think the difference between Becton and Tyler Steen from a play perspective is not that different. Not that different. I think the difference between Becton and Tyler Steen, in my opinion, is like the personality. Like Becton's a freaking star. Tyler Steen's
he's more
kind of
athletic.
quiet. He's more athletic. He was a higher pick. He could play tackle if you needed him to, in theory. So he has a lot of things. He's probably younger, or at least maybe not. He's only 25 now.
Yeah,
Steen, I think
probably
Steen played
24,
4
25.
years.
He's somewhere in that range.
Yeah, so he's probably
similar
not
age.
younger. But I think Becton wants to come back so bad they'll probably make it work. Is my read on it.
Really? So that's your feel.
I mean,
saw
I
him
just
at
think if
the
a team,
airport
if
when
it,
I was going to
I
Clearwater,
know you should have.
gave him a Go Birds pump. I was like, Go Birds.
Where was he
Gave him one of
going?
these-
Just out of curiosity.
Don't know.
But I'm
Don't know.
saying
I
like,
didn't follow him to his thing. He wasn't.
did
in,
it look
he-
like he was arriving or leaving? I guess
Oh,
it'd
it
be
was
hard to
departing.
tell.
He was only in the.
Oh, so he was going outside.
I
of Philadelphia.
assume as much because like you don't fly if you're departing. Like you're in a different part of the.
Well,
I guess you could
No,
arrive.
you could arrive.
Well, he was sitting at the bar and then walk past. So you don't like sit. Unless
I
he's
agree.
picking
He was
someone up-
leaving. He was.
Unless he's picking someone up, which I doubt.
Doesn't really matter.
don't
at
even
this
go
point.
through
I was
the-
more just.
He was
curious.
leaving. He was
Yeah.
leaving. He
It
was
would have
sitting
been
at the
funny
bar.
if he was flying.
Yeah,
like,
because if you're
Cincinnati.
leaving, you just
or-
walk out with your bags.
Yeah,
Yeah, no,
for
he
sure.
was definitely leaving. He didn't
Yeah,
have
yeah.
bags on. Yeah, he was leaving.
That's good. He's back in Philly.
I guess so.
Look at it that way. I just don't know if he's going to get a ton of money. I feel like the contract he'll get with the Eagles, if I had to guess, would be mostly cosmetic, but probably will have. I mean, it's tough to tell. You think over 20 million guaranteed?
I don't know. You're asked. This is your
Yeah.
buddy. You kidding
Tucker,
me?
what do you think? I feel like you're good at this. Do you think over 20 million guaranteed for Becton?
Probably. I think it's a projection, though, right? Like, if you think he can eventually move to tackle.
Right, that's a key part of it.
Well, do you even want him to move to tackle? I think that
Well, if he has the option,
right
he's
for
worth
money on the
more.
market.
Yeah.
I do think it's interesting too when guys are 25, and we just saw it with the Minnesota guy who just got paid. It's his second big deal, the cornerback. Murphy,
Byron
I think
Murphy.
It's his second deal because he was a free agent at 25. Now he's a free agent at 28 or whatever it is. Like that's the kind of thing.
And I think he could be into a
That's
shorter
my
deal.
point. Back then, you could sign for a 3-year deal that's really 2 years or something like
Yeah.
that.
They seem to like
and
the
he
3-year deal.
rebuilds up his value to the point where it's like, oh, now he's Landon Dickerson on the market.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like
I think that's
could see
definitely
that.
possible.
Yeah.
And I think Lane wants him back. I think people want him back.
I think people clearly want him back. And look, I think if Stoutland goes in and says, "Bring me my
Yeah.
boy," you know, that carries weight.
And again, like, you know, and this is a tough thing I'll say about doing podcasts during this because I've been doing the dailies.
You just can't stop looking at it.
Well, no, it's more just like what I say now could sound completely foolish like 4 minutes.
Oh, well,
from
that's
now.
what we do.
You know what I mean? Like,
we pick games.
I
and
know.
then people
Literally
listen to the pod
yesterday,
after
I
it
was on
happens.
the afternoon show. We were talking about Josh Sweat, and I was like, "Look, I think Josh Sweat's gone, but he hasn't been paid yet. Maybe." And then like, boom, right in the middle, breaking news, Josh Sweat. I'm like I said, he's always wasn't gonna leave. But if I had to guess yes or no, I would guess Becton. Yes, that'd be
okay.
That would be my guess.
Look,
but it's like 55, maybe 60.
And I want to give Eagles fans a lot of credit because at least from the calls we fielded on the morning show today, and it's what I feel on social media. I've been all over. You've been on it more. It feels like Eagles fans were expecting to lose these guys and are kind of handling it like pros.
Well, so that's the other thing.
Other than Joe DeCamera and a few
right, Joe DeCamera, Spike is worried, but like,
yeah, which you know what, those guys are always worried.
But
so
it is
never happy.
I do think that we're almost fighting a straw man and like calm down. Like it feels like everyone's mostly.
That's my point. I'm saying like I think people are pretty chill about it now. The reason I said that because I do think that Becton could be a swing factor a little bit.
I think Bond was the big time emotional.
They had to get. If Becton comes back, I think people are.
I agree.
Really happy.
Becton comes back, everyone's elated.
Goes, maybe people are like, it's a little annoying.
I
agree. I don't think people are freaking out because I think we went in. I think to the Big Four thing. I think people expected one to be back.
Yeah.
And they hoped for two, and it was Bond. Yeah. And it was the one everyone wanted back. You know? So,
let me ask you this.
It was the right move. Like, if I could have had one of those four, I would have said, bring Bond back. I knew you were Milton.
Yeah.
I was like, I thought Bond was the most important of those guys to bring back, and they did it.
Yeah. Especially at the money. Like, if you show me all their contracts and I had to pick one of those four, I would pick Bond.
Of course.
Without seeing Becton
which is
yet.
funny because he's the highest paid linebacker now.
It's crazy. He got way more money than I thought.
Just in a general thing, the fact that the Eagles have the highest paid running back and the fifth highest paid linebacker is hilarious.
It is. And you know how he loves it too. He's like, oh, I was told I wouldn't do this.
It's what the fans love too.
Yeah.
It's we know what Eagles
now
get me a linebacker out.
We'll see how that plays out.
Of course.
You know, but they did do it. So I'm curious your perspective on Darius Slay. Because I feel like you are a big time roller coaster on Darius Slay. Like 1 week, super mad at him. 1 week you love him.
I just don't like when he
I know you don't, but I'm saying you are more on the fan side of like really not liking. Like
I hate it.
Exactly.
But for the most part, I'm good with Slay. I don't have any issues.
So this is what I'm wondering. Like, would you take him back?
Sure, I would. I mean, I know
we just had all the Chauncey stuff.
Yeah, look, I don't think he's gonna be back.
So I'm
you're wavering now?
The only reason I'm wavering is because after Isaiah Rodgers left yesterday, someone told me he thinks Slay's gonna come back.
Really? I you just went someone, Tucker.
Yeah, someone that I think would know.
Well, obviously, you don't say.
Yeah.
Like you met someone.
My brother. Yeah,
like,
exactly. Yeah.
No, someone in quotes. I get it.
Now,
so that's elaborate. That's obviously don't say. I
know. Now I will say
what you could say.
That once Rodgers signed, someone said to me he thinks Slay's back.
And this is someone who knows what they're talking.
Yes, this is someone I definitely think knows what they're talking about. But
that's really.
But then the Steelers thing came out. But then after the Steelers thing, it came out the Eagles still own his rights,
which feels very similar to last time, right? Was it 2
Yeah.
years ago with the Slay thing where it was like, oh, he's gone, they're cutting him, and then it's like, wait a minute, maybe he's not gone.
But here's the other.
He's back.
Here's the other thing to consider. So they have 3 guys that they're seemingly open to getting rid of that need to be June 1st cuts: Slay, Bradbury, and Goddard.
And you can only do one. Right?
No, you can only do 2.
Okay, it's 2.
But I don't believe, and Tucker, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't believe you can designate a trade post June 1st.
So
I'm almost
let's
positive
the Bradbury thing is definitely
the Bradbury thing is done.
Over.
He is going to be wanted. Now I don't believe they've officially released him, but yes, he will be or they could just hold him until.
They could do the other 2 if it's more whatever's the most saving. If they have to choose 2 or 3, they'll choose the most.
And the other thing is, I mean, it'd be
Goddard is not definitely gone.
Goddard's not definitely gone. But the thing I'm saying with Slay is, if they trade Slay to the Steelers, my understanding is they lose $9 million in cap space.
So that's probably won't.
That's almost half of what they have.
So unless they're getting back an unbelievable pick, like
which they're not going to. So I kind of think they'll just end up cutting him. But it could also be like, hey, we thought we were going to get Isaiah back. That didn't happen. We
don't love the guys on the
we
market.
lose $9 million if we get rid of you. So we're not like loving that. We're like, why would I trade you for a 6?
Come play the exact same role you played last
maybe
year.
I don't like. Maybe that happens.
So, all right,
You're right. You can't designate a
right.
trade
So if they were to
post-June
trade him in the next few days, unless look, Howie's a magician, who knows? Like they should lose $9 million in cap.
So, question to you, because you were the and I want to know if your thought has changed, because I'm guessing it was based on Isaiah Rodgers partially. Right. You were ready to move on. You were like,
yeah, that's why
time to move on from Slay. Like, let's go, whatever. And it was convincing, you know, and play the young guys.
But I thought Rodgers would be back.
Right. That's why I'm flipping it back around on you. With Rodgers gone, does that change your perspective on it? Because you were pretty staunch. Like, time to move on from Darius Slay.
So what I can't decide about Keely is they say they really like him. It seems like there's a lot to like. I like when I watch him play in training camp, he looks good.
I've been impressed when I've seen him play,
but like they never play him. You know, it's like me continually being like, oh, you should meet this girl I'm dating. She's so awesome. But like, I never bring her around. Like, you know, like they can say all they want that they love Keely, but they played him 11% of the snaps last year and they had a chance. Isaiah Rodgers played 37% of the snaps. He could have played more. They didn't play him a lot his rookie year. So I think like if you said to me, who do I feel better about at corner next year, it would be Slay. But I'm also ready to turn the page.
And he's going to be 35.
Yeah. So ultimately, I think I would. I mean, the cap ramifications matter, but I think I would post June 1st cut him, and I would keep Goddard. That's what I would do.
If I have a choice between Goddard and Slay, if that's where it's at for me, I would choose Goddard.
Without question, I would choose Goddard. Yeah, but I like Keely. I'm just not as like. I feel like there's a little bit of coping going on with fans.
But what about the friends thing? What about the friends thing?
True, they are friends.
Friendship wins.
They've been
the
friends
Georgia
for 2 years.
Georgia boys.
I mean, I like Lewis Seen.
The Kobe Dean. You would have said the same thing about.
No, I agree.
Last year comes in stud.
And also, just this is maybe a pod. This is maybe a pod for a different day. Like, I'm kind of in the mood with next year. It's like whatever happens, happens. They just won the Super Bowl. Yeah. Like they're gonna try their hardest. Like, but I'm not gonna sit here.
You're not expecting them to win back-to-back titles.
Yeah, and I'm
nice.
And I'm also not gonna sit here and be like, how could you do this? Like, it's kind of a good off season to frankly like think about 2026.
To that point, I do think, and you led the pod with, and I agree with you that like, you know, just because they won the Super Bowl doesn't mean that they can't make mistakes, that they're infallible and all that. But at the same time, when I do think, I know we saw it fall apart under his regime before and all that after winning the Super Bowl and even after getting to it, but like, I do think that Howie Roseman has earned the right to ask the fans for patience.
They all have.
He said, specifically, Howie at the combine asked for patience from Eagles fans. And you know what? I'm going to give that dude what he asked for today.
I agree.
I just am.
Yeah.
All right. I want to get to the Goddard stuff and where you're at with that, how likely it is that he's gone. I'm just going to be honest before I dive into this. I'm actually nervous now about this Baccarat thing. Like we've gotten to the point where I'm
like you've got it every time.
I know, but now I feel pressure to get it every time.
Yeah.
You got Drew and Westchester shouting like ideas at us about how we could better do this thing and all it. Like I'm starting to get nervous.
I think like this is your music. You're a music guru. Like this
but
is
you also know a lot of music I don't.
True. Well, the tough thing is I have a list of songs, but I can't remember if I've done them or not. But
we're gonna find out.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's dive in. Mike Quick, Seth Joyner, Jody Mag, Mark Zumoff, Rob Ellis, Joe Coughlin, and us, Eliot Shorr-Parks, James Seltzer. We are the Bet Parks lineup, reminding you that even if your team doesn't score, which ours did a lot,
quite a bit
in the biggest of games.
Yes.
And for what it's worth, still, at least at this moment, have lost 0 players from that offense that scored a lot of points.
Good point.
Now, granted, the defense scored 7 of them too. Or 6, technically, we're going to be in it.
They didn't lose a player that scored them.
There you go. It's a good point. Yeah. See, there you go. There's always another way to win with the Bet Parks app, the official sportsbook and online casino app. The Go Birds Pod. It's the only one we use. The only one we recommend. You get the app. So here's the thing: got all kinds of sports to bet on. Basketball action, baseball coming up. I think next week, I guess, will be our baseball.
You got to do it soon.
I got to do the work.
Yeah,
it's called doing the work, Elliot.
Well,
diving in.
Find a time.
Takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
You got to dive in, really look at last year's records, look at changes, all that stuff. But I will make that happen for you. But in addition to all the sports stuff, you got a casino right in the palm of your hands with the Bet Parks app. You can play blackjack, craps, roulette.
Baccarat. 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 Baccarat.
This is the right time to say I was nervous. Now I don't know. All right. Give me
Baccarat.
I hate that people are listening to this and saying,
"Oh, I got
idiot."
You got it?
Yeah.
All right, give it to me.
Baccarat. baccarat.
Oh, is it Bye Bye Bye?
No,
No. Sorry, Backstreet Boys. It's the Backstreet Boys.
No, you're wrong.
No.
This is a miss by you. I mean, we can keep going.
It is the Backstreet Boys,
No,
right?
it's not.
No.
You're in this similar genre.
It's the same. Is it NSYNC then? It's what? No.
Baccarat.
That's what gotta be missed.
Oh, wait, I believe.
You're getting close.
That's not very Backstreet Boys.
Baccarat.
And they give me a sign. Hit me. Oh, it's Britney Spears.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm an idiot.
Now we got to decide if that counts.
No,
as
that's a miss.
Okay,
My
got it.
first guess counts. I got there eventually, but yeah, that's a bad job. I was the right time.
You know, you were close.
It was Britney Spears. I got it eventually.
It's like when it's the Rolling Stones and I say
you know
it's the
what
Red
it
Hot
was.
Chili Peppers.
I guessed too quickly. I got excited.
You got too
when
confident.
I got too. So, but yeah,
it's a bit of a tougher one.
That was good though.
It was a bit of a tough one.
So, all right, now back to the read. All casino action right at your fingertips. You play hot online slot games like Squid Game, Breaking Bad, Peaky Blinders, and TED based on shows and movies that you love. New users, listen to this deal. You can download the BetParks online casino and sportsbook app right now and get up to $1,000. Just $1,000 casino bonus back if you're down. In the first 24 hours, casino bonus must be wagered. See betparks.com for the details. You must be 21 in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Michigan, Maryland, or that's it. Or Maryland.
Yeah.
Go 1-800-GAMBLER.
It's March.
It is March, Elliot. You know what that means.
Dude, it's crazy nice outside.
The weather's changing. That's the point.
Wow,
you know?
point. Yeah.
So that means it's a critical time to check the status of your home's windows. If they're cracked, they're leaking, won't stay open. This is important stuff because it's going to be cold one day, hot another day. There's going to be weather coming, spring showers, that whole thing.
Mayflowers.
Time to call Window Nation, my friend.
Well, here's the other thing. It's been so windy recently. I feel like you probably know if you need new windows.
Dude, it has been like crazy windy.
Wind is the new rain. That's my official
Good
take.
take.
But if you're tired of
Wind
frigid,
is the new rain.
it is. If you're tired of frigid drafts coming through the windows, or if you're frustrated by higher and higher energy bills, it is time to call Window Nation.
Can I just tell you, I don't like higher and higher energy bills.
I'm unaware of what
I
we
like
pay.
lower.
I don't even know if I
don't
could
either.
ballpark it.
Yeah, same.
$90?
Emily, I have no idea.
Yeah.
Emily doesn't. I have no idea. None.
Literally.
But you know what? In general, like higher bills, not a fan.
Tell me.
Lower
about it.
bills. Yeah, exactly. So listen to this deal right now. You get 2 windows free. Freeze for me. For every 2 that you buy, plus 0 down and no payments or interest for 2 years. Hard to believe. Hold on. Let us finish this and we'll get to it.
Okay.
Can't finish it?
This is huge.
Okay, we'll finish it. Yeah, we
Let's
have to finish it.
Let's finish it. All right. Well, that's a tease right there. You get 2 windows installed in 1 day and not pay anything until 2027. Imagine what you could do with all the extra money in your pocket, plus guaranteed for life.
Plus, hurry because the sale ends March 31st, so don't miss out on your chance to take advantage of the buy 2, get 2 free and pay nothing until 2027. Schedule your fast free estimate right now at 866-90Nation or visit windownation.com.
Tucker is like bursting at the seams right now.
It's insane. Do you want to?
Yeah.
You will never guess this.
All right. So hold on. Let me just try.
I'll say it's a trade.
Yeah, just say it. Just say it now.
Okay,
this is unfair. to the audience.
Well, no, but everyone listening
Yes,
already
you're right.
knows
Everyone
this
knows.
happened. No one is going to hear this pod in half an hour and not know this happened. Is my point.
The Philadelphia Eagles have traded veteran safety CJ Gardner-Johnson.
Yeah.
To the Houston Texans in exchange for Kenyan Green and a swap of 5th-round picks.
What? Okay, so who's Kenyan?
So
Green?
Mekhi Becton isn't coming back.
So Mekhi Becton's not coming back. That's one part
why,
of it.
Why?
Well, I mean,
Kenyan, he's a former 1st-round pick. He's a guard.
So that's what I'm saying. Who's Kenyan Green?
He's a guard. He was a 1st-round pick, I think, last year or 2 years ago.
Yeah. So
Has tackle experience too.
So
From Texas A&M.
Becton's likely gone.
Yeah, I would guess that. So I didn't know who Kenyan Green was. That's why I didn't know why you guys made that leap.
Yeah.
So okay, so why first and foremost do we think that CJGJ asked for more money?
First of all, official emergency pod.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we're official. Thank God we're here
officially
for this.
emergency in a pod. Yeah.
So real quick, let's just break this down.
Yeah, let's take a deep breath.
Take a deep breath.
Let's talk about Chauncey first, and then we'll talk about.
So
because that's the big news. Chauncey's gone.
I really appreciated Chauncey Gardner-Johnson this past year, but neither of us were super psyched when they brought him back.
Yeah.
It wasn't like
I think he's a better personality than player.
I think he made a massive difference for this team this
agree.
past year. We talked about it. I thought his speech the night before the Super Bowl was the best of all of them, like, or at least one of the 2 best. You know, the when he had the line, like, I get emotional, but I know it's because we're all winners in here. I was like, dude. And I thought during the mic'd up in the Super Bowl with the 1, 2, 3 breathe and all that stuff, it felt like he was a leader on the team. Now, obviously, we talked about Chauncey this week, last week. Like, we know that, I don't know if that played into it.
Well, so I'll be curious to see the next follow-up of if there's a new contract coming.
Well, it would make sense, right? That
Right.
like, I think that this feels, if I had to just guess, and I want your opinion because you're even, this is more your world.
Yeah.
But if I had to guess, I would guess Chauncey asked for more money. They didn't want to pay it, and they traded him.
Well, I've said that I thought he was going to ask for a new contract.
You were right. Well,
Yeah.
that's why it was funny, because when the Darius Slay stuff happened,
Yeah.
not just you, all of us were like, "Oh, this is about a
Well,
contract."
you start to wonder if maybe that was
the initial thing, and then he's flipped it. To
yeah,
Darius Slay.
because look, maybe it happened out of nowhere. Who knows? So look, this is live, but like,
that's the beauty.
I'm
of it.
really, really surprised. Like,
I'm
that's my best way to
shocked
put
by
it.
this.
Like,
shocked.
now, obviously,
Like shocked.
I guess where I would fall on it is this. I trust the Eagles on this one. Like, if they're moving on from Chauncey, I think there has to be a reason. Like, there has to be, like, he wanted money and they didn't think he'd be happy. They maybe behind the scenes, he wasn't everything we thought. Like, he was a good enough player. Like, let's be real. Like, he was not a negative by any stretch on the field. Like, we could argue how good he was, but he was obviously
definitely
a
led
good
the
player.
team interceptions again.
Yeah, he was a good player.
He was
but this is now
better.
the second time they've had Chauncey for a year and they moved on from him. Like, it is what it is, right?
No doubt.
Now, maybe this is more about getting this guard. Like, Tucker, you frankly seem to know more about this guard
Tucker,
than I do.
So who is Kenyan Green?
But really quick,
yeah,
like, this could be they want Kenyan Green, and so Chauncey was the piece that landed them Kenyan Green. But to me, it feels more like they were moving Chauncey. This guy became available, and that's it. But yeah, I'm stunned.
You're rarely this like flummoxed.
But I think it. Well, so I'm thinking back to like when Howie said it's not going to look how we all think. Like maybe.
For sure. We thought that meant Dallas Goedert.
I trust their judgment on this. Like,
so I think that CJGJ
fans are going to be really mad about
CJGJ.
This,
that's
yeah.
CJGJ. Now we were like, oh, everyone's chill and calm.
Yeah,
CJGJ. I am 100% sure asked for more money. Like it. Right? I mean, like
it has to be
$5 million. He was going to make this upcoming year.
I can't wait to see what he tweets and deletes.
Yeah, like this feels like a ask for more money. The Eagles didn't want to give it to him. Like Sidney Brown, it feels like maybe a belief.
I think another safety will be coming. Lane Johnson tweets Howie's season with some eyes. So maybe he really likes
Kenyan Green.
Yeah.
So
there's something else coming that he's on that.
But also, I mean, like, so is it possible that CJGJ was just not as liked in that locker room as we?
Yeah, well, look at Slay.
Like, that's my point.
Yeah.
I'm taking the Slay. I'm talking about Lane Johnson tweeting that right after CJGJ gets traded.
Yeah, that's
like,
interesting.
That's not like a super awesome, like, basically like, see ya, go Howie. Like, you.
I agree. I agree.
Is it possible
if I was Chauncey and I saw that, I'd be not happy.
I'd be annoyed.
Yeah, I would be not happy.
So is it possible that the Slay stuff was kind of a Slay letting us in and being like, this guy really ain't a leader? Like, what you think is not true. Like, I mean, I don't know. I'm trying.
Yeah, no, I know. I mean, they moved on from him after 2022, and part of the reason was, much like Hassan out the door, like they didn't think he was great in the locker room in 2022, right? Now, this year, and again, the media's in the locker room. We talk to people. You never get the full picture of what's going on. I thought, to me, like Chauncey seemed like he was good with his teammates. To me, now. Like, he wasn't, Mr. Talk to Media all the time. When he did, it was always like a little tense. Like, but I didn't think they needed to trade him. I mean, look, I think part of this could be they think Chauncey's easy to replace, and this Kenyan Green guy could be their guard.
So that's what I was about to say. Like, if you're just looking at it from a value perspective,
maybe they're going to pay Reed, and they don't want to pay both.
A safety who's on the second year or the final year, making $5 million that year, or a former, was he a first round pick or a second round pick? Whatever. First round
15th overall.
15th overall. What was it? 2 years ago?
3. It was 2022.
3 years ago. So whatever. From a value standpoint, maybe they feel like it's just like a player that they believe in and like they wanted to draft, maybe whatever.
Cash in high on Chauncey.
I mean, like value wise, I can get it.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I think there's a little bit.
Which is funny because he probably makes more money than Chauncey as the 5th, or at least similar money as
the I would think on his rookie deal.
Yeah,
now
in third year of his rookie year or fourth year, like
so it sounds like he's played 2 years in the NFL, which would mean he'd be contract extension eligible next
after
offseason.
The season. But still, I'm saying just his rookie contract is
for sure.
Probably around
Chauncey wasn't making a ton of money. I don't think they would have done this if they thought it was going to like wreck the locker room. Put it that way.
I agree.
Now,
and I think
here's another thing.
Nick has a great feel for the locker room.
Is Slay coming back?
Well, that was going to be my next question.
Yeah.
Now that they did that, it makes it feel like,
it's easy to bring Slay back.
Yeah, easier.
I mean, Chauncey is a good player. Like
I'm floored by this. This is so unexpected.
I agree. He's a good player. I think he will be missed on the field. I don't think you can expect Sidney Brown to step in and do what Chauncey does. Like Sidney, much like Keeley, has been here for 2 years, and I know he was hurt, but like they've not put him out on the field. I think
they have been. Well, it's funny because those are their two gunners, right? I mean, Sidney Brown and Keely Ringo have been their go-to top two guys on chasing down kicks and punts.
Yeah, no draft picks involved, by the way.
I think we sent a 5th round pick and got a 6th round pick back, or vice versa.
No real draft picks. Yeah,
but that still means that
CJGJ and a 2026 6th for Green and a 2026 5th.
So they got a 5th back and gave up a 6th.
Okay.
Wow.
I mean, honestly, like,
wow.
Maybe we'll talk about more Kenyan.
You want to know Kenyan Green?
Yeah, give us,
please.
Yeah. Oh, I'm guessing not good.
So he missed all of 2023 with a shoulder.
So let's just take a step back for everyone, including us, that doesn't know about so he was the 15th overall pick in the 2022.
Yeah, tell us everything.
Yeah, like let's just start
from Texas A&M.
Okay.
So he was the 15th overall pick in 2022.
And his whole thing was he was versatile. He could play guard and tackle.
Okay.
Probably a better guard than tackle. I think he's mostly played guard.
What size is
in the NFL? He is 6'4", 320 pounds.
Okay. Big boy.
Not exactly tackle,
not
but close.
Big, but
yeah.
Big. Yeah.
But so he missed all of 2023 and half of this year with a shoulder injury.
So how many games has he played?
24, I think. He's played 1,500
math isn't
snaps.
mathing for me, but maybe
that makes sense. 17 plus like 9 or whatever.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Or that'd be less even. 17.
So he played all of his rookie year.
Yes.
Then he missed a full season.
Yeah, and then he played.
So he's in his 3rd year, not his 2nd year.
He's in his 4th.
He's in his 4th.
Played 2020.
Upcoming
he was drafted
his
in
4th
2020.
So he's played 3 years.
He's been in the NFL for 3 years. The first year he played his full year. Then he was hurt for a full year, and then he played half a year.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry.
So this also screams. Yeah, this screams like a classic. I mean, I guarantee you, Jeff Stoutland was involved in one way or another in this. Like, I don't think they trade for a guy that Stout doesn't say, "Yeah, I like him. I can do something with him." And look, Jeff Stout and the injuries.
He's probably someone they're interested in.
Yeah, that's my point. When they were drafting, I'm sure. Well, it's interesting because when you look at like they do that a lot. You know, they bring it like in Tavius Street, whatever it was last year. Like that guy was taking like 3 picks out of Josh Sweat. You know what I mean? It's like probably someone they were looking at in that pick, and then they, But I do think that with we just saw Stoutland take a guy who was the 11th pick in the 2020 draft, and people thought was like barely playable, and turned him into a guard who's probably going to make a lot of money now. So like, I do think that when they make a move for or trade for an O-lineman who has pedigree and physical abilities, like I'm always more likely to think that the Eagles will make that work than other teams.
And I mean, O-line is just more important than safety. It is what it is right now. So I think a couple.
Reed Blankenship really will be that leader in the secondary.
Yeah. I mean, Slay. By the way, talk about old takes exposed coming to fruition. Yeah. So I guess I like the acquiring of the guard. Now again, this probably means Becton's gone. So let's process that.
Most likely.
Yeah, I think this means Becton's gone.
Probably. I will say though, we talked about the potential of Becton on a 2-year deal or something like that. Like depending on how his market plays out. I do think this feels like a guy who could like
develop for a year.
Yeah.
But
but the contract doesn't make a ton of sense.
Yeah.
But
I think this means.
But this is a guy you're like, you could argue Tyler Steen is a better starter than this guy.
Agreed,
this guy has not played much.
I don't think you're right. And maybe this is more about moving on from Chauncey. But if you're acquiring somebody that is in his 4th year, going into his 4th year, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So he is going to he's still in his rookie deal, so I don't know if the 5th-year option.
He's not going to get paid. Look at that.
No, but the point I'm making is
pick up his option.
But the point I'm making is like, why would you pay Becton, have this guy sit on the bench? Is what
because maybe you believe in him down the road. If he sits on the bench, he's not getting paid. My point is like you could sign him to a cheap deal if
you could extend him now. Is
right.
The other part of it.
Yeah, or you put him on the bench. No one's paying him to come play for them next year or the year after, or whatever. If he doesn't play for the Eagles, point being that you kind of tamp down his value, have him work with Stoutland for a year or whatever, and then maybe it's more likely, and then he's your swing guy, and then he takes over. I don't know. You know?
I guess where I fall on
I agree with you. It's likely. I
think he is likely going to be the starter this year, is my interpretation of this. I think he will be the starter. He will be, look, I mean, he's got to be really young. Like maybe maybe Becton is going to get paid, and that's what this is. I think it would be silly to trade CJGJ for this guy and then pay Becton unless one of two things. One, behind the scenes, they did not like Chauncey this year. Or two, Chauncey wants a ton of money and they felt that an unhappy Chauncey with his contract was going to be a disaster.
I think that's just
but I think the reason they're important is because they either traded Chauncey and this is who they got, or they targeted this guy and Chauncey is what it cost.
Right.
Do you see what I'm saying?
No,
And there's
I
a
get
difference
it.
there.
Of course there is.
Yeah.
My point is that it could be the latter two, though. My
Yes,
point
it
is
could
it
be.
might not be that they, in which case they
Maybe
could
then
bring back
Becton,
to Becton.
maybe.
That's
right.
what I'm trying to say is we
Yes.
just don't know the picture enough to say Becton's gone.
Right.
That's all I'm saying.
But, let's talk about it from a fan perspective for a second. Like, I think on the field, I understand the trade. I've never been a huge Chauncey guy. Like, I did come out and say he was better than I thought, and all, but like, I just wasn't. Like, I remember last year, talk about timing, I sat on the free agency desk for 12 hours and told people I didn't think it was a good signing. I was wrong about that. But I'm just not a huge Chauncey as a player guy. But from a fan perspective, like,
I think people are going to be
this
pissed.
sucks. Like, from a fan perspective, Chauncey was a fan favorite. People loved him. Like, he was fun to watch. He was fun to root for. He brought personality and toughness to the team. Now, I do think they have more tougher players than they did when Chauncey left last time, like Jalen Carter, like Nolan Smith. Zach Bond's going to have to step up. But, like, Reed Blankenship's going to have to step up as a leader. But, like, it does suck for fans. Like, let's just call it what it is. Like, you can understand it and say you get
a developmental
yeah,
lineman.
for one of, I would argue, the top 5 most popular players on the team.
Up there.
Maybe a little
Maybe not
strong,
5,
but
he's popular.
I mean, what's the chat? I don't know if you've been monitoring.
Yeah,
but
people aren't happy.
Yeah, I
people
mean-
are not happy. A couple.
And again, I am at the point where I trust Howie, but like I don't like this off the face of it. Like I would if you ask me, would you rather have Chauncey or that guy? I'd rather have Chauncey.
I'm more
personally.
worried about losing Chauncey, the person, than
motivator
I am the player.
and
I think they can find a
regardless,
Chauncey
regardless,
player.
I don't like on the face of it. I don't like the deal. I trust Howie, and I think there's more going on here than we know.
Yeah.
But I don't like the deal. Like, I
just
don't look at it
never-
and say like good trade. I look at it and say like that sucks.
I've never
That's
got
my initial take on it.
I've never got the sense that they like love Chauncey.
I agree with you on that.
And I mean, look, like people hate it when Darius Slay does it, but let's be real. Like Chauncey's also tweeting and like causing a disruption, and I don't care. But like the people, like the fans that get mad when Slay does it, like Chauncey does a very similar thing, So maybe that's part of it.
Yeah, I didn't like what Chauncey did last.
He did just tweet.
Chauncey
Ooh,
did.
ooh.
Okay.
Said, "I love you, Philly, forever champions." Eagles emoji.
A great tweet.
Very nice.
Shout out
Aw.
to-
Yeah.
No,
I mean,
we
he's
can
got to
say
be.
more.
He's got to be sad. Like I do hope he gets a new contract.
I'm sure. Yeah. I mean, I'm guessing that's part of the deal.
I'll
right?
also say, look, a lot of teams have moved on from Chauncey. The Saints, the Eagles twice, the Lions. Like, I think Chauncey's a good player, but I don't like Chauncey. I think the
Look,
fan emotion of this, I
with-
think, is a bigger deal than it is on the field.
Maybe, but
But I'll say this: I don't want Sidney Brown to be the guy off the bat. Like, maybe he wins it, but like, I'm not going into next year being like, oh, it's Sidney, and I don't think they are either. I think they will add a safety.
okay.
And I will say this is early but I've seen a lot of mock drafts have them take a safety at 32. Some guy to Georgia, Tucker, you might know who he is. But
Well, remember they signed that former first-round pick?
Yeah, Louis Sean.
He
Yeah.
was part of that Georgia group again.
yeah,
He was on that team.
Let me
I
ask
mean, he was cut a couple times.
We're
but
just
he's another
guessing.
former
he
first-round pick.
had a really bad injury too. See?
so we are just guessing here because I've not been able to call or text anybody. But like, do we think they went into the offseason knowing they were going to trade Chauncey, or do you think this is something that came to fruition over the past 2 weeks? Tucker, feel free to.
I have no idea.
I have no
Yeah.
idea because
I don't think they came into the offseason targeting a guy who was.
But I just think about the Howie saying it's not going to look how.
Oh, I
people
agree.
think.
I think they thought there was a real chance they would trade it. I don't think it was just because of the tweets.
I also think if you want to go like, Chauncey, I think had every right to ask for a new contract after
agree.
Saquon got one.
I agree.
If they're going to bring Slay back, they were fine last year, but obviously, who knows? Like maybe
Which didn't they do this 2 years ago? Remember they let Slay go and they're going to bring back Chauncey.
Yeah,
And
that's-
Chauncey
Yeah.
said no, so then they're like, all right, I guess we have the money. We'll bring back Slay.
yeah.
Was it the same thing? I knew the Slay part of it.
No, the
was
Slay
Chauncey-
thing was last year, and Chauncey was
the Slay
they had,
thing was.
but we didn't know Chauncey and Slay had issues.
Slay
at
thing
that
was
point.
last year. Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, okay.
No, it was after they went to the Super
Yeah,
Bowl.
but so Chauncey left that. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, you're right.
My point is they were the same time. I don't know that I didn't realize that Chauncey was the reason they brought back Slay because he left.
I think it was a money thing.
Maybe
Like,
it was. I don't know. My point was I don't know that it happened where it was like, all right, well, Chauncey's leaving, so we can give that money to Slay. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know how that, but I get your point. Yeah, it is interesting because it
So
definitely.
Kenyan Green's only played left guard in the NFL.
Oh,
Okay, so hasn't played the side that back.
He also was the second worst graded offensive
Oh,
lineman.
we never got to that. That's
Yeah, he was
right.
the second worst graded offensive lineman in 2022 and the third worst graded offensive lineman.
Have
last
you
year.
seen anything about
offensive
Chauncey?
line. No, hold on, not guard. Offensive
lineman?
All right, well, I'm a
Like,
pro
like
football-
the grades actually are, like 70 is usually pretty good. He was a 38 last year, and he was a 37.
Yeah, it's really bad
in 2022.
It's bad.
I don't follow. Is that bad?
No, it's really
That's
bad.
like,
I mean,
like
that's
if you're like
a lot of red
60
there.
is like
yeah,
kind of okay.
yeah. Like
Wow.
it doesn't start to get green until you get to like
Wow.
the 80s.
I've never paid anything.
Yeah, it's no, it's really bad. That's a really bad grade.
Does that do anything for you? You're a PFF.
Yeah,
You're a lot more
yeah.
than I am. You know?
I mean, I just
He had a
hard to
pass blocking
scout, like-
grade of 0 in his last game.
I mean,
how many
what's-
how many pass rush snaps? I mean,
what does that mean?
pass
Like
blocking
guys are-
snaps.
2, and he allowed two quarterback hurries.
like
They
Jamon
took him
Brown
out. Yeah.
type game there. Yeah.
So maybe this is more about Chauncey.
And that's what I mean. That's why I said don't think that the way this guy, like what Tucker just read to us, minus him being the 15th pick in the draft, sounds like a backup offensive line. Sounds like somebody who could play tackle.
But then why
and guard,
trade Chauncey for him unless
I agree. I'm just saying what the profile
yeah.
sounds
No, I
like.
know.
You
We're
know,
thinking
so,
through this live,
especially
but,
heading
like-
into the 4th year where he's going to get it sounds like someone who is not being brought in to be your starting guard is the way but he
said
could be. He
that
totally
no,
could
that's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. So
sounds like someone they're bringing in
This
to
sounds
work,
like-
who had a lot of talent enough to get drafted 15th in the draft. Who, hey, let's take this piece of clay and give it to our guy and see what
Right.
God could do with it. You know,
So John Clark just tweeted that it's his understanding the Eagles are trying to do everything they can to make money available to keep the core of the team together, and they want to see what 3rd-round pick Sidney Brown can do at safety. They're also building depth on the offensive line. Mekhi Becton is still on the table.
told
for
you,
a return.
yeah, and not told you, but that,
Right,
that-
yeah,
I don't
no.
mean it like that. I mean like that's what I was
yeah,
thinking potentially. But yeah, that Sidney Brown thing, that was my first thought. And like, it seems like they like Sidney, and he was a 3rd-round pick a couple years ago. You know,
What are the cap implications of trading Chauncey? Can you
Great
look
question.
up over the cap really quick
Yep.
for Chauncey? Because I mean, if it opens up money, I think this is probably more about maybe he wanted a contract. They weren't going to.
I think this is 100%. Not, it's not fair. I think 90. I would say 95%. My guess is that Chauncey wanted more money, and the Eagles didn't want to pay him, and that was the basis for why he's. gone. I think everything else. I think they like this guy as an option, whatever it is. But I think the main reason that Chauncey is traded is Chauncey said, "Pay me," and they said, "We're not going to."
So I wouldn't go that strong, but where I would go is I think this is 95% about Chauncey. About like
One way or
maybe
another. Well,
Vic
of
didn't like him
course.
as much as a
Yeah.
player. They didn't love him in the locker room. Like they thought maybe if they give him another deal, like who knows. So as we think through this live, which is kind of fun, this feels less and less about like the guy they acquired,
Kenyan Green is that
and
his
more
name?
and
Yeah.
more
I'll
about
make sure I had it right.
moving on from Chauncey.
I think so too, which is wild.
Well, because here's the other
Is he
thing.
gonna have a better career than Kenyon Barner?
The other thing to consider
Is it
is
spelled the same way with
Reed-
the J? Or
Reed
was
No,
it
it's a Y.
Okay.
Reed
It's a
Blankenship
soft
is
J.
Reed Blankenship's contract eligible. This like he
Mm-hmm.
is one. I wonder if maybe they didn't want to pay Reed and not Chauncey.
Oh, that's interesting too.
So there's
Sure.
4.7 million in dead cap if they trade him before June 1st,
Which they are.
They have or are.
Okay, so
And
they lose.
200,000 in cap saving. So
Okay, so there's no impact on the cap, essentially. Like
not
they're
really,
not
because his
losing.
cap number was 4.9.
Yeah,
and it's 4.7.
Well, the dead
in
cap number
money.
doesn't really matter. I'm just looking at the cap savings, like the
So they lost
It's
$200,000.
$200K.
yeah.
That's not
So
even-
there's no
nothing.
difference.
Yes.
Wow.
Wow. All right. Wow.
How about that?
Did not see that coming.
Yeah. So I guess
Final.
final.
We just couldn't sit around and just chill out for a few days.
Yeah.
Like, I gotta do something. I gotta do something.
So I guess final, not final thought. Like
Yeah, we'll do
in the
final thought in a
truest-
sec, but final thought on the trade.
Well, I
for now.
kind of think we just do our final thought, end the pod, and
and keep
just
talking.
stop going live for a second, and we'll talk.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about the Parks pod?
Yeah, we'll talk about that. That's what I'm
Okay.
saying.
Okay.
So,
Very cryptic.
well, all right. What's like what would you grade it? Like, what's your final?
I don't love it. You know, I don't like it. I like again, I understand it if Chauncey wanted out or Chauncey wanted more money and they don't want to pay him. Like I'm fine with that part of it. But like on the face of it, like I would rather have Chauncey than this lineman guy. So it's pretty simple to me, you know?
Yeah. So I think that's where I fall on it.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm going to be as freaked out as other people are about it, just because I'm not as high on Chauncey as other people. But like, we can't for a whole year hear how awesome Chauncey is.
And how much
This
he
is-
matters.
And now all of a
Oh,
sudden
he
it's like,
brings
oh, who
in-
cares? Like,
he
yeah,
brings
like
something we don't have.
right.
Awesome.
So yeah, on face value. Now again, the offseason is an incomplete picture. We'll see what happens. But yeah, on the face value, I don't like it.
Yeah, I don't like it. All right.
And yeah,
well, we
that's-
turned around. I was like, everyone relax. And I'm like, I don't
Yeah.
love it.
should we do final thoughts, or does it feel like emergency? I feel like we should just end.
Okay.
my
you're
official-
very intense.
Well, I
right
just
now.
feel like this is people. It's a big trade.
People
People want
won't
to
wanna
hear
hear it?
about it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't think that's fine.
All right. Well, if you really, I, mean, we
I
can
don't
do it.
care. We can not do it. Let's not do it and see how people react. I want to know
Okay,
if people
that's
like
fair.
that we didn't do a final thought or don't.
That's fair.
I would have voted for a final thought. I'll put.
I
that
know
out
you
there.
would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's not.
I just think like there's breaking news. Like let's let people
Well, but I get it. But the point is, then they could either listen to the last 2 minutes of the pod or not. Like you're listening, like you're talking about people live. Like the most people are going to listen to the
True.
podcast and already know that this trade had happened by the time they listen to the podcast.
True.
It doesn't matter.
All right. Final thought. What a trade.
Sure, that works.
Hello, mom and dad. As
Okay,
BLT would
sure.
say.
Yeah. All right. So are we doing a pod next or not? I'm
Well,
confused.
let's end the live.
Okay. All right. Maybe we'll be back. Maybe we won't. Until then, he's Elliot James.